everyone. This is an intro to my video on how to know if you're awake. And it occurred to me tonight while I was editing that I should make a little intro into this because I want to clarify some things for people who maybe don't have a lot of time and just are able to watch the first few minutes. So what I want to say is I have experienced a lot of people wondering or asking, how do I know I'm going to ascend? How do I know that I'm awake? So many times when I talk about this information with people, or I've been posting something about ascension on Facebook or Instagram, I get certain people will private message me, and it's been several people throughout the years, so I know that this topic applies to many. And they want to know, how do I know that I'm awake? How do I know that I'm ascending? And what I feel they're really trying to say or trying to communicate is that they're a little afraid or worried that they're not ascending, okay? And then the next thing I get is a lot of questions, okay? Like never-ending questions about everything. And then sometimes I get comments from people like, well, I don't really understand that. I'm trying, but I don't really understand that. That doesn't make sense to me yet. And what does that mean? Am I going to ascend? And don't worry. That's what I want to say before you watch the rest of this video. I really don't want you guys to worry, because the thing is, we are moving into a time we're going to be living from the heart and no longer living from the mind, okay? That's our true state, to be living from our heart. So if you run across information that's not making sense to you on a mental level, okay, you just can't seem to wrap your whole mind around it, I want you to simply feel into the information, feel into the messenger. So if it's me, for example, maybe you don't understand everything that I'm saying. Maybe it all isn't real to you, but you feel that I'm telling the truth, or you feel you resonate with me, okay? So that's the things that you have to look for. When you find the person who's supposed to lead you to certain information or to certain truths, you will just resonate with that person. You will like how they're presenting themselves, okay? You will feel truth in their message, even if you don't completely understand their message. So that's really good news. And then I would like to tell you not to force it. Don't force yourself to have to know everything in one night. Okay, I've literally been on the phone with certain people or text for hours and hours answering things, and then the next question, and then the next question. And I get it. I understand what it's like. I've been a seeker my whole entire life. However, I have usually done my own finding of answers through the internet, as like you are doing now, like you that are watching me are doing. Okay, so you're on the right track. For the people who have texted me sometimes for hours and called me and stuff, I'm in no way, shape, or form saying that I don't appreciate you and that you've irritated me or something like that. I'm just simply saying that there comes a point where then you need to go and take a little bit of what you've been given, and then that leads to something else, It's a rabbit hole, right? So you gotta find your own answers. And your higher self, you gotta remember, we all have a higher self. And your higher self knows all, okay, sees all. And your higher self is wanting you. This is not a trick. Your higher self wants you to understand. Your higher self wants to help you ascend in any way possible. So it will, if you are honestly asking, please lead me to the right people, to the right information, to the right places to get the next step that I need. in this process, then you will be led, you will be guided there. Okay, you will find answers in the weirdest places. It could be a road sign, it could be a fortune cookie, it could be somebody writes something down on a piece of paper beside you, you know, and it's like a random stranger, but something you needed to see or hear. So I don't believe that we see or hear anything by accident. So if you've come across my videos, I don't believe that that's an accident either. So just keep yourself open to information. Just keep yourself open. That's the biggest thing. Trust your heart. Trust that it's leading you because it wants you to understand and it wants you to find the truth. And then just digest it, you know, just let the information seep into you. And the thing about ascension information, or AKA truth, okay, is that sometimes it really just, you absorb it and it becomes true to you through direct experience in little increments at a time, okay? So it's a process, it's a divinely guided process, and you all are well on your way by now. So if you're going to watch the rest of the video, it's a little bit longer. I do apologize for that. However, I don't like to edit myself too much because I think it looks kind of, I don't know, just, you know, it's just not how real life works. People are, sometimes you pause, sometimes you say, sometimes you think, you know. So try to watch as much of it as you can. Maybe come back to it at another time if you don't have the time right now. But I feel that there's really valuable information in everything that I put out there. So if I'm making it a certain length or I haven't edited certain parts, I think that that's also for a reason. So enjoy the rest of the video. Thank you for watching this introduction. And I'm also sorry I keep bumping my table, so it's kind of making the camera a little shaky, but none of that matters. We're just doing the best we can, right? Okay, guys, thank you so much. Guys, so I received a question tonight on one of my YouTube videos, and it's a really good question, so I want to read it and then respond to it with a video, because I think a video would just answer it a lot better. So I'll go ahead and read the comment. Hi, I love your channel and I know this video is 2 years old, but I recently found you and went through most of your videos, but I'm still pretty new at this, and by this I mean my spiritual conscious path. I would like to know more about what you talk about being awake. What does that mean and how do you know you have awakened? Thank you so much. Well, thank you, Maria, for taking the time to write me, and I value your appreciation and I value your question. And I'm gonna say that that question is not really a black and white answer. I know that there's a lot of these videos now. It seems to be kind of popular to have videos about you know, the 5 things you should never eat again, or 3 things that highly successful people do every day. And you know, I think we're addicted somehow. They've figured out the average human psyche is kind of prone to clicking on titles like that, right? Because they just, I don't know what this thing is where they want the list, you know. And even when you watch some of those videos, this is going a little bit off topic, but it's going to tie in here, I promise. But when you go to some of those videos, first off, it's like, well, by whose definition, what successful person are we speaking of? How are they successful? In what way are they successful? Because, you know, it says it as if successful is just kind of like a a given that everyone agrees upon, and that's just not true. I mean, um, there's a lot of people who would consider a lawyer successful, and then there's a lot of people who would consider being a lawyer, their worst nightmare. They would consider maybe being a hippie or something successful. So I try to steer clear of this, like, I'm going to give you, 5, in this case, so I'm going to give you 5 signs to know you're awake, okay? Because that's not really the honest truth, because there are various stages of being awake. Okay, so Maria, this is how I'm choosing to answer this question for you, okay? There are various stages of being awake. For instance, I'm vegan, but just because a person is awake to the atrocities of animal agriculture and the suffering of animals doesn't also mean necessarily they're also spiritually awake. Okay? I've met many vegans who aren't aware of ascension, who aren't really aware of the fact that they have a higher self, things like that. So you can be awake in certain ways and not in others. So in this context, because this video that you commented on is called The Third Wave of Ascension, Summer Solstice Full Moon, and I did this on June 20th. I'm sorry, it was for the June 20th, 21st full moon summer solstice in 2016. So that was almost 2 years ago. Okay, so I'm assuming in this context that you're asking me, how do you know you're awakened on matters like ascension or for ascension? Okay, and I answered this a little bit in another video, but I want to tell you personally that just the fact that you somehow found my video, okay, I have a tiny channel, and you were obviously, I don't believe anything's an accident. So if you're watching my channel, I believe there's a huge reason, okay? Because our higher self always gives us the information that we need for the level that we're ready, to the level that we're ready for it, okay? So I would say you're definitely awake about ascension, or you wouldn't be getting this information and you wouldn't be resonating with me. You would be turning the channel, right? Because you would just think, wow, this girl's crazy, or something like that. But the fact that you love my channel, like you said, and you've watched a lot of my videos, and you are resonating with me, and that means that you are waking up to the truth of ascension. Okay, so there are people who are awake about matters like pharmaceuticals a lot of them being deadly, and the corruption in the pharmaceutical and medical industries. So that's one level of being awake. And again, I said, being a vegan, being awake to animal suffering and how much damage animal agriculture has caused our environment. That's another level of being awake. So there's all these issues, right, that you can be awake or unawake on, okay? So as far as like reaching ascension, first off, I would ask you to ask yourself some questions. Are you aware that you're not your body? Okay, are you aware that your body is a vessel that houses your spirit, but it's not who you are? It's not the highest truth of you. It's temporary. Okay, and you've had so that's the first question. Second, do you believe in reincarnation? So do you believe that your spirit has had other bodies, other forms before, that your spirit is eternal? Okay, that's another question to ask yourself. are you still steeped in religious practices or religious beliefs? Because that's another level of awakening, because religion is pretty much a man-made construct, okay, within the third and fourth dimensional consciousness, and it is translated and understood from a limited consciousness. And a lot of it also has been manipulated to use it for controlling people, for controlling humans, for eons of time. So that's another level, right? And then you've got the level of what was going on Earth, who was in charge here for a very long time, you know, like the truth of the Cabal and the Illuminati and the child sacrifices and the animal sacrifices, and the fact that a lot of it was still going on until very recently, okay? And that now those things are being exposed rapidly. So there's a difference between, there's also a difference between being spiritually awake and being aware of the ascension process that's happening right now in real time. Okay, so that's, I find words insufficient sometimes to explain these concepts, and that's because language is actually very limited. And I can feel that I remember a higher language, like an angelic light language that was, you know, a lot, it wasn't really talking in sound, it was more like sounds, but a lot of it was telepathic. So I struggle sometimes to find the words to explain some of these concepts, but I also enjoy trying, and I also feel like it's part of my purpose to decipher it, to translate it for the ones who are awakening for their first ascension. So what I want to say is there's a lot of spiritual people also that are not religious, okay, but they're spiritual as far as like, I'm just going to point out like the yoga culture, just to use an example, because it's a very popular thing now, and you seem to have a lot more people talking about love and light, saying, you know, namaste, and taking up some of these spiritual practices, right? There's been a huge upsurge of that in the last decade or two, I would say. But again, a lot of those people don't know that we're in an ascension process, okay, for Mother Earth, that Mother Earth, that we are alive during the most exciting time ever on this particular planet, because Mother Earth is ascending from the third dimension to the fourth to the fifth. Okay, that's the ultimate goal, is and I say she's ascending because I'm just trying to explain it almost almost looking back. I don't know if that makes sense, because like I feel I'm already in a higher dimension, and I'm trying to explain it to people who haven't gotten here yet, how to take the leap, the leaps that they need to get here. But so when I tell you that the Earth is already in the fifth dimension, okay, so sorry, I had to get my dog. She was doing something weird, but anyway, she's gonna be down here with us. This is Stella. So what was I gonna say? So the Earth is already in the fifth dimension, okay? So she made it. And then when I talk about the Earth has a feminine spirit. That's why we call her Mother Earth. And also her spirit name is Gaia, G-A-I-A. So she has made it, all the other timelines, meaning the other possibilities that could have happened to Earth, have already split off of this uppermost timeline, okay, if that makes sense. There are different scenarios that can happen, choices that humanity made that caused, a lot of disaster on lower timelines, but those timelines have been shed off. If you're watching this now, then you're on my timeline, or you're on the ascending timeline, so that doesn't pertain to you. But I don't say it to get you into fear or anything. I say it so that you'll understand that we've gone through the nastiest part of this. And now, basically, we're just trying to have enough people wake up to the fact that we're already in a much, much different reality. And a lot of it looks the same only because we're holding collective memories of what reality is still in the collective consciousness, okay? And once that memory gets replaced with the truth of where we are, then our external world will quickly reflect that we are indeed on the fifth dimensional Earth. Because Earth, as a planet, she's a conscious entity, conscious soul, does not want to be in the lower dimensions anymore, okay? She's been in the lower dimensions for a very long time, and she's been extremely used and abused in those dimensions, and she has decided, or been granted, earned her ascension, basically, to the fifth. And so the souls and that's why we have so many people that were like dying at rapid rates, and leaving the planet, in mass numbers, is because a lot of souls weren't ready to withstand these higher frequencies, these higher energies that we're in now, okay? They weren't prepared for that. To them, it felt like insanity and desperation. They couldn't process it. They weren't ready. It was too much. And don't worry about them, because they know exactly what their next steps are and what they need to do on their path of evolution. And they will incarnate next on planets that can host a third or fourth dimensional experience for them, because that is what they are capable of dealing with, experiencing at this time. Okay, so it's all perfect in the grand scheme of things, even though it looks sad and crazy sometimes from this side. So while I said all that, Maria and other viewers, is because I wanted, see, now I'm going to wrap back around. Even my thinking is so non-linear now, and that's another sign, this non-linear thinking that I have. So, but basically, I'm just trying to say that when I talk about like the cabal, when I talk about the Illuminati, and talk about the child sacrifices and everything, I don't want anyone to get into fear, because I'm not a fear monger, and I'm not giving any of that any power. I'm simply explaining what has been the history on Earth, so that people can realize that it's over now, but they need to first acknowledge how bad it was, the truth of what was, because the darkness has to be acknowledged first before it can be fully released, okay? And that's where we get into personal ascension and collective ascension. Because like for me, I pretty much already ascended a long time ago, at a soul level, okay? But I'm still here, like my avatar body, in Stella's avatar body. She's one of my guides, actually. She's amazing. But we're still here because we're helping, we're assisting in a body, but our consciousness is already residing in the higher realms. And it causes a lot of frustration and misunderstanding sometimes for me, because I'm just registering in a different, on a different level, but I can still see the lower dimensions for now. So yeah, but you're gonna be fine, because I'm telling you, if you're watching this video and you're not like turned off by it, and you're not like, oh, that's completely crazy, then you are probably really close to fully awakening. And I think it's going to take some shocking news for most people to fully awaken. It could be this Pizzagate situation, which is all the child rape and the child sacrifices that a lot of the government was involved in, and the government was involved in it because the cabal, the powers that were involved in it, and they pretty much they did run the government. So I know this is going to be kind of hard for some of you to completely wrap your brain around, and I get it. I mean, this is stuff that's taken me years to realize and years to have validated for me, but there already are light warriors in important positions, okay, behind the scenes, rounding up, there's been arrests, there's going to be mass arrests, and rounding up a lot of the old players, the old system, okay, so that we can create our new structure, okay, our new society, based on love and light and unity and the good of all beings, okay? So don't get into fear about that. It's a thing of the past, but it's going to have to be revealed to a lot of people before they fully wake up. So there is going to be some shock coming probably this spring. I would say no later than end of March. There's going to be a lot of revelations coming out, being exposed, lies being exposed, and really just, I mean, if you understand that humans have been controlled and manipulated on every level, and I mean every level, constantly throughout your life, you've had to sign things and give your verbal consent, and you consent and you consent and you consent, because that's how they keep you in their reality, locked into their structure, okay? See, you never have to consent. You don't have to. You have a divine right not to. But you don't really realize what you're consenting to, because a lot of things are cloaked. And then you have your birth certificate, which you had no say in, because it was, made for you when you were born. And that birth certificate itself already has you consenting to certain things. So your power has been taken from you since the day that you were born, but you're not a victim because you chose to be born here at this time for this experience. And if you're watching me right now, you should be extremely happy, because not only did you choose to be born here at this time for this ascension experience, but you made it. Okay? You made it. And it just makes me so happy for you. Very, very happy for you. I just realized that at this moment that, I came here out of love. That's the only reason any of us, would come here. And although I feel like I've ascended many times, I was not required to come back here. Bubba, sorry, it's my other dog. I was not required to come back here, but I chose to out of love, and it's really getting to a point finally after all the hardships where it's starting. I can see how it's going to become a pleasure as you guys wake up, and well, there's just really no words, and we'll all celebrate soon, but to have your first ascension, I mean, how amazing, you know? You did it. You came to earth as a divine being, okay, with a lot of power, and you chose to forget and give up all of your power and go through all of your hard lessons and get so lost in the illusion. But now you're at the point where you're putting the illusion to the side, and you're reaching for truth, and you're ready to come home to the truth of who you are, and you're transitioning into your light bodies awesomely. And I'm going to do a video about your light bodies soon. But you are waking up, Maria and everyone else. You're on the right track, and I am so happy. Good night.